Joe Rogan claims error or corruption played part in Tyson Fury's win over Deontay Wilder, as Gypsy King was awarded a longer count. Let's get a direct quote here. He says, the referee is supposed to go 1-2 when the guy goes down, but if for any reason he has to interrupt the count, you're supposed to pick the count where the ringside counter has it. It's called the timekeeper. So there's a guy who's counting ringside and he'll keep the count going. So if you're at 1-2 and then you're like, go to a neutral corner, that guy's supposed to be like 3-4-5, but he didn't. He went back to it 3-4, but the guy had already been down for a couple seconds. Without a doubt, it was a long count. I think it's an error or corruption. Most likely an error. Most likely the guy's panicking. There's maybe 1 or 2 other humans that have ever lived that can punch as hard as Wilder. He's without doubt one of the hardest punchers of all time. He's a murderous puncher, but the level of skill was so evident. The difference is Tyson Fury is a masterful boxer. He's masterful. His strategy was amazing. Just stay glued to Deontay Wilder, wear on him, hang on him, make him work, and just drag him deeper and deeper into those horrible waters filled with crocodiles. That's what he did and almost got knocked out doing it. That's how dangerous Wilder is. To say that there's maybe only 1 or 2 other humans that have ever lived that can punch as hard as Wilder, that's just straight hyperbolic. There's loads of people that have lived that punch harder than Wilder, and most of us probably don't know who they are. Don't assume that the hardest punchers of all time have all been world champions, because you'd be wrong. As I've explained many times before, there are guys out there that are journeymen that can punch harder than world champions, but they don't have the skill, the ability, the confidence to be able to land the big knockout shots on a regular basis to produce the victories and the knockouts in the ring consistently. And some of these guys don't have a good defense. Some of these guys don't have good all-round skills, don't believe in themselves much. And therefore, you don't see the evidence of this crazy punching power that they have, again, like I say, on a consistent basis. But if you lined up a bunch of people, you know, you got a time machine and you took all the hardest punchers of all time and you lined them up on the punching machine to measure their punching power, I'm telling you, the hardest punchers of all time will probably be people that we don't even know. Obscure boxers and whatever. Because punching power, particularly in the heavyweight division, is not that rare. There's a lot of guys out there that can punch extremely hard. If you're talking about the hardest punchers as world champions at heavyweight, then yeah, you'd have to put Wilder right up there. Certainly in the top 10, I would say. All time. And look, there's no way we can know for sure. But if you're just going by the eye test and by the results, I would say, you know, you might be able to put Wilder in the top 10 somewhere. Maybe you'd put him closer to number 1. Maybe you'd put him closer to number 10. But I think he could be put in the top 10 in terms of world heavyweight champions and punching power. I think so. I think that will be a reasonable thing to do. But to say that, you know, top 3 human beings that have ever lived and this guy's in it, come on. That's just pure hype. Anyway, as far as the count, let me have a look at it now. All right, so Fury hits the canvas at 0:56 seconds left. And then you count 1 second from the time when he hits the canvas. So he hits the canvas, then you go 1, all right? Because 1 second after he hits the canvas. So 55 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So he's up at the count of 9 if you go by the clock in the corner. He's up by the count of 9. There's nothing wrong with that count. And by the way, when you're talking about counts in boxing, the referee's count is final. And the referee is not a digital clock. So he'll pick the count up from the timekeeper, but his seconds are not going to be exact seconds. So some counts might be, I don't know, 9.5 seconds, 9 seconds. But it's more common that counts will be a little long. There might be 11 seconds, there might be 12 seconds, there might be 10.5 seconds, there might be 10 seconds bang on. At the end of the day, it's a human being, not a digital watch. So the counts are not going to be absolutely bang on accurate. But if you go by the BT clock in the corner, which is counting down the seconds of the round, then Tyson Fury was up by the count of 9 anyway. So even if you go by a digital clock, Tyson Fury's up. So it doesn't matter anyway. Again, you don't count 1 as soon as the guy hits the canvas. That's not how the count is conducted. That way you're counting 9 seconds. The guy hits the canvas, then you count 1 when he's been on the canvas for 1 second. So he hits the canvas, then it's 1, 2, like that. You see it? Now, if you want to talk about the referee's count, the referee's count here is on 7. So, you know, in that sense, you could say the referee's count is off, but Tyson Fury is still up by 9 anyway. So the referee's count is off by 2 seconds. He's on 7 when actually, well, it might be off by 3 seconds to be fair. He's on 7 when it should be at 10 at this point that I'm looking at. But when he was on, let's say 6, the actual count was 9. So Tyson Fury was up regardless. It wouldn't have made a difference. Although some people say Tyson Fury got maybe 2 seconds extra to recover or 3 seconds extra to recover. Okay, I'll take that. But he was up on his feet before 10 seconds. That's for sure. So he wouldn't have been counted out. And in fact, what was Joe Rogan saying? Was he saying Tyson Fury should have been counted out? Okay, played part in his win. That's going to fuel the Deontay Wilder fanboys, I'm sure. And they'll say he got a long count and this, that, and the other. Yeah, okay. It's like Mike Tyson with Buster Douglas and that long count saga. Let's move on.